Every great business starts with a big idea, a real spark. But let's be honest, how do you turn that spark into an actual concrete plan? A plan that really works? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into today. How to build a legitimate blueprint for your business.
I mean, this is the million-dollar question, right? You've got this amazing vision, but how do you get all the moving parts of your organization, the day-to-day stuff, to line up and actually move in that direction? We call this the ambition gap. And if you want to bridge that gap, you're going to need a map. In the business world, that map is created through something called process modeling. It's how you chart the entire course from your grand vision to the nitty-gritty reality, all before you spend a dime or take a single step. Well, this kind of transformation isn't just one big heroic leap. It's a structured journey. It all starts with really understanding where you are right now, then defining where you ought to be, and finally, planning exactly how you're going to get there. And this three-step model is our guide. First, you start with the as-is. That's taking a brutally honest look at how things work today. Then, you define the ought to be. This is the dream state, the ideal, best practice version. And from that, you build your 2B model, which is your concrete, no-fluff, actionable plan to get to that next level. And this, right here, is the key. That ought to be model, it's not just some boring technical document. As the slide says, it's your ambition, it's your dream, but it's translated into a future operating model that can guide every single decision you make from here on out. But look, to draw a blueprint that everyone on the team actually understands, you need a common language. And for this kind of strategic planning, one of the most powerful languages out there is called IDEF0. It's the top-down approach. You start with the single biggest function of your entire system, like the 30,000-foot view, and then you break it down, layer by layer, getting more and more detailed. It forces you to think from the big picture first. And it's all built on a few really simple components. You've got boxes, which are your activities or functions. You've got arrows, which represent data or physical objects. And the whole thing is organized by this brilliant concept called ICOMs.
ICOM. That's the acronym that makes it all click. Inputs, controls, outputs, and mechanisms. Now, don't worry about the Norwegian text on this diagram. The logic is totally universal. That box in the middle, the work process, needs 4 things. Inputs come in from the left, controls come down from the top, outputs go out to the right, and mechanisms support it from below. Basically, every process needs something to work on, rules to follow, a result, and the tools or people to get the job done. Okay, I know this might still sound a bit abstract, so let's make it super concrete with a simple, everyday example I think we can all get behind: baking bread. All right, let's use this diagram to map it out. The input arrow on the left, that's your ingredients: flour, water, yeast. The control, coming from the top, that's your recipe. It tells you what to do. The output on the right is, of course, delicious fresh bread. And the mechanisms down below, that's the baker and the oven. See? Every single process, no matter how complex, can be broken down using this simple ICOM logic. But the real magic of IDEF0, like we said, is that it's hierarchical. You don't just stop with one big box. You start breaking it down to really understand how all the little pieces work together. So, we always start at the very top. This is what's called the context diagram. It's just one box representing the entire process of baking bread. This is our big picture view, our starting point. Then you decompose it. You crack that one box open. Again, ignore the language on the slide and just follow the logic. The main process is broken into smaller boxes, like make dough and bake bread. Now, look closely at the arrows. The dough that comes out of make dough becomes the input for bake bread. And the hot oven that's the output of heat oven, it becomes a control for the baking step. That's the power of IDEF0. It doesn't just list the steps, it shows you how they all connect and influence each other. So this brings us to a really crucial point. We have to understand where IDEF0 fits in. It's a very specific tool for a very specific job, and you don't want to confuse it with other kinds of process models. I love this slide because it shows the key difference so clearly. Think of IDEF0 as the architect's blueprint. It's a top-down plan that's all about the what and the why of a system. Other notations, like BPMN, are more like the builder's instructions. They're focused on the how and the who, and you absolutely need the architect's blueprint before you can write the builder's instructions. It's that simple. And this really hammers the point home for strategic planning. The model should be, as the source says, generic and logical, with no implementation-specific content. What this means is you're not getting bogged down in which software you're going to buy or which specific department is going to do what. You are simply defining the core functions your business needs to perform to achieve its dream.
So let's wrap this all up. Why does any of this matter? It matters because IDEF0 is the tool that truly bridges that ambition gap we talked about. It forces you to be clear, and it creates a shared understanding of your business from the very top all the way down. It gives you that master plan, that blueprint, before you get lost in the weeds of implementation.
So I'll leave you with this question. Think about the most important project you're working on right now. Do you have a real blueprint for it? I don't mean a to-do list. I mean a clear, high-level map of the what and the why before you dive into the how. It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.